Namaste, everyone, and it's my pleasure to bring to you another episode of Dekho Apna Desh. Didn't we tell you when we started this journey on 14th April 2020? But this is a journey that's never ever going to end because India is indeed so incredible. Wherever you go, you come back even after visiting a place, the need to go back to that place because there are so many layers and layers to every little place which we call in India also has stories and tales, the food options, the textile options, the sheer variety in terms of the people's languages, the way they live, etc., etc. So today, in fact, it's my privilege to bring to you a place we've brought to you earlier. We have been to Assam, but we've done a few different things in Assam. Today, we are going to take you through the spiritual tourism journey, and of course, a lot of other things also we shall continue to do as we walk through Assam. But I also know a lot of you started doing real time travels, and we are extremely, extremely happy and most thankful to all of you that you are taking ideas from the Dekho Apna Desh series and are actually traveling in the different parts of India, moving away from those very familiar places, going to the nooks and the corners. And the other best part that we notice as trends is that people are staying in homestays. And that's really bringing a very different kind of tourism into India. And as a traveler, the kind of experience it brings when you go stay with a family is entirely different. So, if any of you have not gone and stayed in some of the amazing homestays in India, please do that the next time. I'm not saying don't stay in hotels. Yes, do go and stay because our hotels are very warm, very hospitable. They take care of you really well. But the way a family takes care of you, I think, is so warm and so endearing. So, anyways, I can keep talking as always, but let me introduce you today the amazing team that I have with me walking us through Kamakhya ji and a lot of other parts of Assam and also the whole experience of spiritual journey in the region of the east part of India, the northeast part of India. So welcome Prasenjit Sarma
Thank you,
from
ma'am.
Guwahati and Ritvik Ghosh from Calcutta, Bengal. Welcome to both of you. I can see Shruti there. Shruti, you can also join in, give your little snippets on how to travel with a 3-year-old baby. So this is the very varied platform. And I was speaking to Prasenjit before we started the session. He went and did BCom in Pune, and then he says he got bored with the job he was doing, and then he realized he needed to do something more lively and more connected with people. And he went to Kerala to do his masters in tourism. And for the last 10 years, he's been actively working in the area of tourism. So Prasenjit, people like you are very inspiring, and you are also a huge, I would say, role model for a lot of young Indians as to how, through entrepreneurial effort, people can actually make careers out of the sector of tourism. Ritvik, you are one of our facilitators. He's a guide, he's a facilitator, and he tells you that when you go to Calcutta, yes, you must go the tram journey. You may go in the car, but what you really see through walking in our country is another level. So I'm going to pass on to Prasenjit first, and let's go walking.
Thank you so much for your kind words, ma'am. It's a great pleasure and a great honor to be speaking about Assam and what Assam has to offer to travelers from all across India and the world. So, just let's just get on with the presentation. So, we are going to be talking about Kamakhya Walks, which is basically a heritage walking company in we do heritage walks in Kamakhya, and then we are going to be talking about spiritual tourism in Assam. So, uh, the what we're going to talk about the different themes that we can create in Assam for spiritual tourism, and then the idea behind Kamakhya Walks, what Kamakhya Walks is about, what we can offer to travelers in terms of spiritual tourism, and just the conclusion in general. So the one of the best ways to actually divide Assam into spiritual tourism, we can give them themes. So in Hinduism, we can have a basic division between worshippers of Lord Shiva and worshippers of Lord Vishnu or Krishna. Then we have people worshipping the mother goddess Shakti, Durga, Kali, so on and so forth. And then we're going to talk about what is there in Guwahati for travelers in general. So we are taking the theme of temples and spirituality, but we are actually trying to show them art, architecture, sculptures, and there's a lot more other than darshan. So when people think of spiritual tourism, they may think that going into the sanctum sanctorum of a temple, paying their respects to the goddess. But what we want to tell people and show people is that there's lots more to see and lots more to see and do in Assam in terms of spirituality. So when we have, what we are trying to show is, in if you see these places like Surya Pahar, Madan Kamdev, this is basically an itinerary that we can create with the theme of Lord Shiva, and similarly for the Mother Goddess, for Vishnu, and so on. And it is an itinerary that is moving from west to east. So the arrival will be in a place like Guwahati. Then you move west to a place called Gwalpara, which is about 3 hours from here, where this place Surya Pahar is located. And if we talk about places, people may not get a idea of the of what we want to show. So we will be talking through photographs. These are basically some of the steps the government has taken to promote spiritual tourism. So our present CM, Mr. Hemanta Biswa Sharma, has recently announced a 5 crore package for the Dhupri Gurudwara. Now, the Dhupri Gurudwara is a very sacred place for Sikhism, as this is where Guru Nanak Dev Ji um, came to meet Shankar Dev Ji, who was actually a reformer of Hinduism from Assam. So they met in this place called Dhupri, and later on, Guru Tegh Bahadur, who may some people may know, there is a very big Gurudwara in Chandni Chowk, Delhi. So Guru Tegh Bahadur later came and he established a Gurudwara in Dhubri in around the 1700s. So our present CM is trying to build a spiritual tourism circuit in Dhubri itself. Similarly, as I said, Mahapurush Shrimanta Shankardev is a very important figure in Assam society and culture. And so they are trying to create a tourist circuit of the important places that he has visited and the people he has impacted. So these are things that are actually underway right now. And in Kamakhya itself, there's a lot of mythology and mysticism. So there was a demon who was challenged to build 3 staircases, and the government has taken redevelopment work, restoration work of these 3 historical staircases. So there's a lot of work that is being done by bodies like ATDC and Director of Tourism, and also archaeological departments for these kind of preservation and restoration. So coming back to the itineraries, we will first talk about Shivaism, the worshippers of Lord Shiva, and the important temples in Assam. So this place, what we are talking about first, is a place called Surya Pahar. This is very interesting because there are supposedly 99,999 shivlings in a area about 1 square kilometer. So the idea was they wanted to build a second Kashi in Assam itself. So Kashi, city of light, also the home of Lord Shiva, they wanted to establish a second Kashi in Assam. And this place is in, basically you can see a few shivlings right now, but it is believed that there were 99,999 shivlings in this area. So this is from Guwahati, you move west first, you see places like this. And the idea behind the itineraries that we have created is that these can be clubbed with things like handicraft, wildlife, and so on. So close to Gwalpara, you can visit Nolbari. There's a place called Satyabari, which is famous for bell metal work. So these can be combined to give travelers a better experience. This is a place called Madan Kamdev, very close to Guwahati, about 45 minutes to an hour. It's a archaeological ruin which is dating back to the 9th and 10th century. And there, the archaeological department believes that there are 12 temples that can be excavated in this place. There are a lot of beautiful sculptures. There are some sculptures that are slightly erotic, and they are similar to the ones in Khajuraho. So very few people actually know about these places and actually visit these. These places need to be protected and also be showcased to other travelers. Coming then actually from Baihata you will come to Guwahati, and from Guwahati there are a lot of things to do which we will talk about later. But moving on from Guwahati, this is a place called Nagaon, and this is a temple which is called the Mahamrityunjaya Temple. This is the largest shivling in the world, and this is built in 2003. But the place that it is built on is actually a very old sacred place. So there were some pujas and yagnas that were done here a long time back. So when people were building houses, they found ruins, and then they decided that they should have a temple here. And this is the largest shivling in the world. It's got a small museum and things like that also, and be a great experience for travelers. Moving on to the east, a lot of people come to Assam, and one of the main things they want to see is wildlife. So we have got two UNESCO World Heritage Sites. One is Manas, one is Kazuringa National Park. And Surya Pahar is actually located very close to Kazuringa National Park, about half an hour, 45 minutes from there. It's located on top of a hill, and again, it is in ruins. But there, as you can see, there's such beautiful sculptures. And I have actually been leading trips to Kaziranga. But very as far actually, I myself haven't led a trip here, but I plan to do so as soon as possible. And it would be very good and a different kind of experience for travelers visiting Kaziranga to come to places like this. Moving again, this is close to. This is all on the most popular tourist circuits in Assam. So from Guwahati, people go to places like Nameri and then to Kaziranga, to Majuli and Dibrugarh. So this is like a very common tourist circuits. What we are trying to show is we can club spiritual tourism with the general touristy circuits. So this is again neglecting Shivadol. Now the well-maintained temples that you will see are basically built by the Ahom dynasty around the 1700s. So Sivsagar, which was the Ahom capital, has a lot of these similar type of temples. The most famous one being Shivadol, uh, which you can see here. Early on, it used to have the top part of it is actual pure gold, and it's a very important place for the locals for Shiva worship. And coming to the end of the tour is basically a place called Tilinga Mandir. So Tilinga is like bells, and here people come, they make a wish. So when they make a wish, they tie a bell, and when the wish is fulfilled, they come and untie the bell. The interesting part about this temple is that this was in the the Limca Book of World Records for the highest number of brass metal bells in the world. And you can also move further into Arunachal, a place called Parshuram Kund, where it is believed that Lord Parshuram did penance, and that is where the axe fell out of his hand. He did meditation to Lord Shiva. So this will basically moving right from the west to the eastern part of Assam, and you can also enter Arunachal and fly off from Dibrugarh. Uh, Similarly, we can talk about the mother goddess. So the most famous one being Kamakhya, of course, and Kamakhya has 10 forms of the goddess. But there are other important temples like Mahamaya Temple. Then this is Kamakhya Devalaya, and inside Kamakhya Devalaya, actually there are three forms of the goddess. The main one being Tripura Sundari, and the other two are basically forms of Lord Saraswati and Lord Lakshmi. Goddess, sorry, Goddess Lakshmi and Goddess Saraswati. But what we are trying to do through the walks is that we are showing other things, other temples, other important sites around Kamakhya itself. This is Bharavi Temple close to Tezpur. Again, these now there are different forms of Shakti. There are different. The locals actually term this as a Shakti Peeth, but this is not listed as one of the 51 Shakti Peeths around India. But in Assam, we have designated certain temples as Shakti Peeths itself. So the Mahamaya Temple, these Bhairavi Temple are local Shakti Peeths. This is the Geshwar Temple, which is the Geshwari Temple located in North Guwahati. Close to this is a lot of ancient temples are in this area. One is called Dol Govinda, which is for Lord Krishna. Then there's Ashwaklanta, which is for Lord Shiva. And there's Digeshwari for the Mother Goddess. As you can see, it's a rock sculpture of Lord Ganesha where people come and pray. And then again, coming back to the ancient capital of Assam, Sibsagar, there's a temple called Devi Dol. So Dol basically is in a way a temple, and then you have Vishnu Dol, Shiva Dol, and Devi Dol. Architecture is very similar. This kind of architecture is called, it's a mix of Nagara style architecture and Indo-Saracenic architecture. So you can say it's a mix of Hindu, Islamic, and Christian architecture in a way. Talking about Lord Krishna, so there's a Lord Shankardev who spread the teachings of Lord Krishna. There's a huge following for Lord Shankardev, the main centers being Majuli, um, and we have a lot of namghars. These namghars are very serene, peaceful places, and they are all across Assam. But these are some of the important temples, which is the Hagriva Mahadev Temple, which is in Haju. Haju is a very interesting place because you have it's a sacred place for Hindus, Buddhists, and Muslims, all three religions. So the Hindus have sacred Vishnu temple as well as a Shiva temple. The Muslims have a mosque called the Pua Mecca. Now, Pua in Assam means one fourth, a quarter. So they believe that if you go and pray in Pua Mecca, you get one fourth of the blessings of visiting Mecca on Hajj. So it's a very important place for Muslims. And the Buddhists believe that Lord Buddha uh, attained moksha or nirvana in Haju also. So it's sacred for three places. It's about 1 hour from Guwahati. This is Ashwaklanta, as I was talking about, located in North Guwahati. So you can, it's a very nice experience because the government has built a ropeway across the Brahmaputra. Now, a lot of ropeways, cable cars are actually, crossing over mountains. There are very few actually crossing a river like the Brahmaputra. So it's actually a terrifying experience, but also a very nice experience crossing such a huge water body. So you can go across in a ropeway and come in a taxi or a ferry as well. You can take a ferry across, which is also nice. This is in the center of Guwahati. These are very old sculptures. They were actually kind of people did not know about it, but then this is actually a protected monument by the ASI right now. It is in a place called Sukleshwar. So Sukleshwar is a very important Shiva temple, but below the temple, next to the river, you find these beautiful sculptures dedicated to Lord Vishnu. A lot of people in Guwahati also are kind of unaware of these places. So we are trying to do city tours and show people things that are overlooked in general. Majuli is the center of Vaishnavite worship. And the photo that you see here is basically a satra. So, satra is a monastery where male monks live and they practice spirituality in a way, and they also perform recitals and dramas. So in Majuli, after Diwali, they have the Ras festival, which is a very unique experience for travelers. So they do the Ras Leela. Uh, there are different hotros. The one that you see is the Utro Kamlabari hotro, but there's also a hotro called Samuguri. So the Samuguri, they build make mask out of clay, and then that's what they wear in the performance of Ras. So these things with general sightseeing touristy circuits can be clubbed. Majuli is getting very popular. It is was the largest river island in the world. Um, and it was trying for a UNESCO World Heritage status, which I really do hope it gets, because as soon as right now you have to go to Majuli on a ferry, and as soon as you cross over, you feel like you're 30, 40 years back in time. Life is very simple, very slow. It's all very green, and it's a very nice experience. Again, as I said, coming back to Shivsagar, you have Vishnu Dol. You can see the architecture is very similar to the Shiva Dol and the Devi Dol. Other important sites that I was mentioning, this is the Gurudwara and Dhupri, which was established by the ninth Sikh Guru Tegh Bahadur, to commemorate the visit of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. And this is Pua Mecca. As I said, one fourth of Mecca. That's what actually it translates to. And coming to the east again, you have a very unique tribe called the Tai Pake community. So they practice Theravada Buddhism, and when you visit this place, you actually feel like you're in Thailand. The houses, the temples, all like the pagodas in Thailand. So it's again, it's this place is located next to the river called Buri Dihing. Very simple. It's like a rural setting. They prepare very nice traditional meals. You can come and you can interact with the monks. And I know a lot of people who are traveling. Certain companies in the east, in Assam, are actually taking guests here. So these are very interesting sites. Um, as far as Guwahati, we are trying to do 1 and 2 day sightseeing trips for the ancient temples that are located in Guwahati. And we're also doing general 1 and 2 day trips for sightseeing like World War II memorial. So there's a Commonwealth graveyard in Guwahati. A lot of soldiers who gave their lives in Kohima and Manipur, they have actually, the graves are there. And talking about Kamakhya walks, the idea behind Kamakhya walks was that when I started designing trips for my company, I always felt that there was more to offer to guests in terms of Kamakhya. So I've been born and brought up in Guwahati itself, and I've visited Kamakhya many times. And my grandmom was actually very spiritual, so she used to take us to the other temples in Kamakhya. But what I noticed later on is that people visiting Kamakhya are concerned about, there's this queue you have to join, and you join this queue and you enter the sanctum sanctorum, where you have to go down this set of steps, and then you touch this kund. There's a body of water. So that is believed to where this is believed where the you know, the reproductive organ of goddess Parvati fell. So that is considered by people as the most sacred place. But actually, there are 10 forms of the goddess in Nilachal Hill. So what we want to show people is that when they go to Kamakhya, they're actually paying respects to only three goddesses. But in Kamakhya, there are 10 forms of the goddesses. And through Kamakhya walks, we want to show at least 6 to 7 or 8 of them in the walking trip. And the central government has a scheme called the Prashad scheme, which is trying to build infrastructure in the main temples around India. And Kamakhya is the only place in Northeast under this scheme. So the government, of course, is involved in building the infrastructure, but we as a private entity are trying to enhance the experience of visitors. So through Kamakhya walks, we are trying to show people the architecture, we are showing them sculptures, we are talking about the communities that have existed in Kamakhya over centuries. And Guwahati has the biggest airport in the Northeast, and a lot of people, and Northeast is one of the fastest growing tourism sectors in the country. But Guwahati is being used as a transit point. So people fly into Guwahati and then they travel to Meghalaya or to Tawang or so on. So in the last tourism policy of the government, they were actually focusing on making 24 hours, 48 hours packages in Guwahati to increase the time spent by the guests. So the more time people spend in a place, the more economic benefit for everyone involved, right from a water bottle seller to a taxi guy to a hotel owner. So we are trying to create experiences, trying to keep the travelers engaged, so that they can spend more time in the city. And we are actually taking the Prasad scheme and the tourism policy as guidelines for our work. What they are trying to achieve, we are trying to do it as a private player. Also, I have led trips for a lot of my friends, for locals around Guwahati, from people around India. And a lot of people at the end of the trip, they tell us that there are a lot of things that they have learned new about Kamakhya. Even though they have been going to Kamakhya since childhood, there are a lot of things that they have not seen or they have not heard about. So we are talking about, as I said, architecture, mythology, and so on. And we are trying to actually do educational programs for school children, so that even the school children get a little bit of history and culture about their own city and their own state. We are a sustainable travel company, and walking is as sustainable as it gets. And we are trying to make sure that the benefit of tourism goes straight to the people. So we are using everything local, local operators, local shops for anything, right from a person keeping your shoes to people preparing offerings for the temple and so on. So to talk more about Kamakhya walks and what Kamakhya walks is about, I would hand over to my colleague Ritik. Ritikda, please take over.
Yeah. Hello. Am I audible and visible?
Then I think you should just go ahead. Please go ahead. Ritikda, are you there? Okay, I would just, I think there's some connection problem. So let me talk about Kamakhya walks. So there are 51 Shakti Peeths, which are the main centers of worship of the goddess, spread across 7 countries. Now, there's a misconception that Shakti Peeths are only in India, but actually they are in places like Sri Lanka and as well as in Tibet. And out of these 51 Shakti Peeths, there are 4 Adi Shakti Peeths, as in the most revered or the most sacred temples. 2 of them are located in Orissa. One is located inside the Jagannath Puri temple. One is in Kalighat, Calcutta, and the other one is Kamakhya Temple. And as I mentioned, in Kamakhya, Nilachal Hill, which is it's a hill where the Kamakhya Temple is located. In that area, there are about 10 forms of the goddess. So we will be covering uh, 7 or 8 of them, and these are temples that people generally visit, but for some particular reason. So what people don't know is that um, there's a temple called Navagraha in Assam. So Navagraha is 9 planets, and when you have a dosh or some kind of a fault in your horoscope, people go and worship in Navagraha to make their horoscopes better. But people actually come to Kamakhya as well, and each temple is for one particular planet. So there's a temple called sorry, Bogalamukhi. So in Bogalamukhi, people, it is the temple. The temple goddess is actually for Mangal planet. So there they give offerings for of yellow things, yellow flowers, yellow cloth, and they also offer chilies. So there are a lot of temples which are very interesting. It is a cradle of tantric worship, um, and we are basically trying to talk about the people who were settled in the temple to look after the temple and for the upkeep of this temple. So there are communities like the Gayan Band. So the earlier picture in Majuli, you saw these people playing musical instruments. So they are called Gayan Band. But generally, people know that Gayan Band are for Vaishnavite worship, but there are communities in Kamakhya who are responsible for musical performance dedicated to Shakti, and these communities are actually losing their tradition because they're taking up urban jobs in government and so on. So we will be taking guests to these communities so that there is some economic benefit and they can continue their tradition. There are also important communities like the Mali community who are basically responsible for the cleanliness and security of the temple. And what is very interesting is that they are the first people to enter the kund or the sanctum sanctorum every day. And when they are inside, even the priests are not allowed inside the temple. So these communities were established by the Ahums for the maintenance and upkeep of Kamakhya. So in the temple, in the walk, we'll be taking you to some, as you can see in this photograph, it's a very beautiful temple located inside the Kamakhya complex. This is Siddeshwar Temple, dedicated to the younger form of Lord Shiva. And there are hardly any people visiting this place. There are a lot of beautiful sculptures in and around this temple. Um, Now, when we have been doing our research, we found that finding information is very difficult, and some beautiful sculptures like this are on the roadside, and people park their cars and they don't even notice it. These are actually, they deserve a place in the museums. So we are trying to find out more information about this, trying to show people how beautiful these sculptures are. um, and actually the people have given us very good feedback when we have talked about things like this. Some of these sculptures have been excavated when new buildings have been built, or some of them have been recovered from some ponds in that area as well. In the walk, we have one of the first places you'll be visiting is this garbage recycling unit. So there's a professor and the temple committee have set up this garbage recycling unit. All this plastic that is stacked up are water bottles that will be converted into water tanks. So those syntax water tanks, that is where it's going to go. But another very interesting project of this recycling unit is that they take all the leftover flower offerings and they turn them into incense sticks. So in social media, there's a company called Pool, which has done very well around India. But the similar project is going around in Kamakhya, and it's all organic material, and we will be taking guests here directly so that if when they're visiting the temple, they can buy incense from this place. They also make organic compost for your potted plants and gardening. There's lovely photographs to be taken. Every time we go to Kamakhya, there's something new to see. This is a Babaji in a Kali temple. Very nice for photographs. This is what we do. We walk and talk. We talk about history and so on. Uh,
Prasanjita, we have Ritvik the back.
okay. Ririgda?
So you're on mute.
Ritvik, you are on mute. Can you unmute? Ritvik, you are on mute.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello? Yeah. Yeah. So Prasanjit has actually, hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we are able to hear you, Ritvik.
Yeah. So I'm audible and visible, right? So Prasanjit has spoken really, really well about what it is all about. So I live in Kamakhya Hills actually, just about 100 meters from the main Kamakhya Temple. So I lead the walks any day and every day. We just need just about two people minimum to lead any walk, and the walk is for about a couple of hours, wherein you get to see all these important and interesting temples along with the main Kamakhya temple complex. We take that old um, route. There are at least three or four routes, one by which you actually travel. You, in the sense, like anybody and everybody, with gratitude, like you move with a car, and it's just about 3 kilometers. Look at the locational advantage when you're moving from Guwahati airport to the main city of Guwahati. It is in between. You just have to cover uphill 3 kilometers, and then immediately you can start the Kamakhya walk. And whatever has not been taken care of, if I may say so, in the absence of better words, I mean, all the 10 different forms of Ma Kamakhya, which is Bogolamukhi, as Prasanjit mentioned, Pitambari, everything is yellow over there. So we cover that. We try to show you something which is not too very common at all, and we thought it was very very important whatsoever, and that's how it is like. And we talk to you about we let you know, and you interact, actually directly interact with the Mali community, where, who are the people who enter the main Kamakhya temple, and then there are the Doloi. They are the heads of the pandas. So you, whatever, you might be having a whole lot of questions, right? When you're walking, especially in the center of Tantra, and you know that this is 51 Shakti Pitas, 51 Shakti Pitas, which are spread around seven different countries, which includes Burma, which includes Tibet, and so on and so forth. And most revered. Why most revered? Because this is where the procreation happens. So the woman is a sister, the woman is a daughter, the woman is a wife in the practical sense and with all love and respect. But a woman is more a mother than anything else. And that is what is about Kamakhya, Ma Kamakhya. And so, yeah, so I am purely into leading the walks. Um, and I take you through those old routes. I take you through a Kali temple with a Shamshan Ghat nearby, because Tantra cannot happen without all these, right? There's a huge difference between mantra and Tantra. So we tell about all these things, whatever questions that you have, inquisitiveness that you have, whether you are a child, 14 years, 12 years, or whether you are an elderly person, middle aged, or more than that. So we try to quench that thirst through a walk of about 2 hours, which takes you through all the Das Mahavidyas, which it is commonly known as, and we also let you know about the local communities, which Prasanjit already explained about the Mali community, and we also let you understand what about the animal sacrifices which takes place, which is just about 10% of the total number of people
Litvik, I'm
that.
sorry I'm interrupting you in between, but I was, I am like walking with you, so I'm getting curious already. Now, what exactly is the Tantra practice, and when you walk through, what do you actually are able to tell us for somebody who knows nothing about Tantra?
Ma'am, there are actually two ways of worshipping. One is called Dakshinacharya, and the other is Dakshinacharya, right hand, right hand practice. Bhamacharya, left hand practice. Now, in Kamakhya, they are both Dakshinacharya as well as Bhamacharya, both. Now, with Bhamacharya Ramakrishna Paramhamsa, he had also practiced Bhamacharya. In Bhamacharya, it is believed that you reach moksha faster. You reach moksha faster. But what happens in general, ma'am? What happens in general that there are some practitioners who take it to a certain level, and after that they 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 flaw. They they use all these habits or all these practices just for just for uh, small benefits, if I may call it so.
Ma'am,
So
if I may
once,
interject, Ritikda, if I may
Please go
just
ahead.
add a few
Please go ahead.
points.
Hmm.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, so Tantra, Kamakhya is known for the center of tantric worship, tantric fertility worship. Now, it is believed, according to some archaeologists and historians, that there was a there was it there was a way there was a tantric cult in a way. So there were people belonging to they used to only do tantric worship in Kamakhya. What you see presently in Kamakhya is more of Brahmanical worship. So when the Ahoms ruled Assam, they invited a lot of priests from across India. So most of the Sharmas, I am a Sharma, we have actually come from a place called Kannauj in UP. So we were called into Assam to kind of make worshipping more what do you call systematic or more organized. Whereas the tantric worship, uh, the actual practices of tantric worship, we will actually never come to know
Yeah,
because
yeah, it's
we
not at all
no
easy, ma'am. It is
no no
not
no
at all easy,
Rita, let
ma'am.
me just finish, please.
Yeah,
So
please. Sorry.
in Kamakha, you have to take Diksha. So, Diksha is where you will be following a particular teacher. You will have to follow certain customs and daily practices when you take Diksha. Prayers and practices for tantric worship are only taught to people who have taken Diksha. Even as us leading trips there, we will not be told what is exactly tantric worship.
Yeah, yeah,
To give you a
takes a level. It takes time. It takes
to
time.
give you a difference, a slight distinction, tantric worship here is kind of using uh, animal sacrifices. Though, so they believe that the energy, that life energy that is released in after you give sacrifice, that can be harnessed into doing good for people. Similarly, there are certain temples in Kamakhya, Kamakhya in Assam, where they give offerings of alcohol. They offer eggs. So the priests in the northeast are actually allowed non-veg food. So we do not eat chickens because that is a way of it represents the demon in some way. But we are they do buffalo sacrifice, they do goat sacrifice, other sacrifices where they believe they can use this energy for good. Uh, so that is the basic distinction. What we can, the visual representations of tantric worship in Kamakhya and Nilachal Hill is certain sculptures that you may see. So certain sculptures that show the underworld, show demons. That is symbolism of tantric worship in Kamakhya. But actually, what the tantric worship, what they can do, we will not be able to tell you. We may be able to tell you in a basic way, but what are the kind of things they do? We not know. This time when I went to Kamakha on Ambubasi, so Ambubasi is the biggest festival, which is actually designated as the mini Kumbh. So over a 4 day period, there are estimated 3 to 5 million people who visit Kamakha in that time. And there is a place behind Kamakha, very old terracotta temple where it is a akhara. So all the Naga sadhus and all the babas from around India come and stay there during that time. And when I went there, I actually saw what they were doing. So they do havans and they sit around the things. But what kind of chanting and what kind of things they're doing, we do not know. But what we know is that it is for the good of people. So if someone has financial trouble, if someone has got bad health, they can they can do certain things to improve your current status. So
Thank
that is
you.
what tantric
Yeah,
worship is.
thank you, Prasenjit. I actually wanted, thanks for bringing out the differences also, and also the fact that it's a very powerful form of prayer for all the viewers. I would, highly recommend because there's a lot of lack of clarity, let us say, on what
Yes, ma'am.
constitutes Tantra practice. And we encourage all our viewers to, go on the net, Google, and see because I'm doing the same. And it's very fascinating that I will read for a half a minute that starting in the early centuries of the Common Era, newly revealed tantras centering on Lord Vishnu, Shiva, or Shakti emerged, and that's why this being one of the oldest Shakti peeths has that power, the energy of the Shakti peeth is phenomenal, and that's why when you do prayers over there, in the prescribed ways, they bring the desired results, and that's why the manokamna puri hona, we say that the wishes are
Yes, ma'am.
fulfilled in a particular place. And so there are tantric lineages in all main forms of modern Hinduism, in fact, such as the Shaiva Siddhant, the Shakta sect of the Sri Vidya, the Kauls, the Kashmir Shaivism. But what is most interesting, and as I'm reading, I'm just sharing with all the viewers, and please feel free to read more, that in Buddhism, the Vajrayana traditions are also known for tantric ideas and practices
Yes,
which
ma'am.
are based on the Indian Buddhist tantras. They include the Indo-Tibetan Buddhism, the Chinese esoteric Buddhism, the Japanese Shingon Buddhism, Nepalese Newar Buddhism. So it's a very, from what Ritvik you also said and what Prasenjit has already shared with all of you, it's a very tough prayer. It is there's a lot of dedication that is required from the devotee, and because it is very complex, therefore the pujaris or the pandits who actually do it, they are specialists in that, and not anybody and everybody can do it because it requires a lot of many years of sadhana that goes into. And first you have to be that much empowered to be able to do those practices. So it's a very, I've been to Kamakhya ji, and I just want to also share with everyone that it's a very different experience. I can only say that it is in various ways it is interpreted. In English it is sometimes called the temple of desire also, because the the yoni of the
Yes, ma'am.
Shakti Peeth is there, and so it's very special temple. I also want to share something very interesting when we talk about, and because you mentioned about 7 other countries also where the body parts of the Devi, fell, and that's how these temples became what they became. I just went to the Ambaji temple in Gujarat about a week back. It's about 3 hours from Ahmedabad. And if you're coming from Mount Abu side, from the Rajasthan side, it's about 40 kilometers. Now, over there, the Honorable Prime Minister, in fact, some time back, said that because Ambaji is where the heart of the Devi is supposed to have fallen. And so Ambaji also has a huge following. Now, what is being done over there, that a model of all the Shakti priests from all over the world, the same, exactly the replica is being made for all the 51 Shakti peeths, including Ambaji. So all other 50 temples are also being made in the form of a replica temples are being made over there. So the ones that are in eastern part of India, there were 10 of them. So all 10 are like one cluster, then at a little distance, and these are all in a very forested area that they are being made. It's coming up as a beautiful place, and at one location itself, while of course going to the original location is a very different experience, and of course people will keep going back to the original locations, but this will be like a mini one place where Ambaji is there, and around Ambaji all the other identical replicas are being made for Shaktipat, including for Kamakhya ji also. So that's a huge project coming up, and I just wanted to share with all the viewers that if you are on the side of Ahmedabad, or if you're in Udaipur or Mount Abu, then you must go to Ambaji also, because it's also in fact, when you go to Kamakhya ji also, I think the sense of something happens to you, you can feel the energy in these places. So I think that is a very important part of India's, when we talk of India's heritage, when we talk of India's wealth, why for centuries and centuries people have been walking to India. There are stories of the Chinese pilgrims sometimes
Yes, ma'am.
walking to India, and people came from Middle East, people came from Europe. These stories are abound. How Hyun Sang, of course, Ptolemy was there, Pliny was there, Megasthenes came. So there are so many travel logs that we have. Even Batuta's travel logs are so famous. So many of them. So I think it's a. I'm sorry I'm interrupting in between, but just wanted to
No.
add a few dimensions and also talk about the tantric practices, because there is a lot of misconception about tantric
Yes, ma'am.
practices, and that needs to be dispelled, and it needs to be understood in the way that it is actually supposed to be. Very powerful prayer, very powerful prayers. Yeah. So go
Thank you
ahead,
so much.
please.
So, uh, That is exactly what we are trying to talk about, ma'am. When people think about tantric, they think about all that hoo-ha, on Kaim Petrol. But actually, tantric worship is very peaceful and very powerful. And what basic distinction, if you can talk about, is that mantra is chanting, whereas tantra is more of action, and that one of the simplest distinctions. It's not saying that they are that different, but that is what you can basically differentiate them by. And what we are doing through 6 degrees and Kamakhya walks is that we are doing our basic walking tour, which takes you for around temples for 2 hours. But we are also planning two other walks of slightly longer duration. One will be focusing on the community. So we'll be taking you, as talked about, Gayan Bayan community playing tunes for Shakti. We'll be making you meet them. There are people making offerings, preparing certain offerings for the temple, like sweets and other things. So we'll be taking you there, which economic benefit goes straight to them. You can purchase whatever you want uh, and take it to the temple. Then there are a lot of sacred ancient temples around Guwahati. So there's actually a Jyotirlinga which many people may not know. It is called Bhima Shankar. Um, it's a very beautiful place. You have to walk for about 10-15 minutes inside the forest, and there's no concrete structure. There's a small stream, and the water falls directly over the Shivling. It's very beautiful. That is Bhima Shankar Jyotirling. So we are taking 1 and 2 day heritage temple tours around Guwahati. We are also doing 1 and 2 day general sightseeing tours of the places like the World War II cemetery. There's a DC's bungalow, a beautiful bungalow which is about 130 years old, overlooking the Brahmaputra. So we're going to be seeing things like that. And then we're going to be doing 1 day outside Guwahati. So places like Mayang, which was known as the center of black worship around the world. Then there's places like Pobitora. It's got the highest density of rhinos, and so on and so forth. So there are places around Guwahati which we will be showing. We're also thinking of making Nilachal Hill into a naturalist, paradise for naturalists. So there's a lot of trees, a lot of greenery around Nilachal Hill. So a lot of people do morning walks for exercise. So we want to encourage people to get into fitness, encourage them to become naturalists. So you can spot birds, take photographs, and so on. Um Also, there are people are interested in photography. They can take people photographs of sculptures, monuments, people, sadhu babas, and all of that. Then there's a we used to do this early on in Calcutta. So there's a lady called Jane Jacobs. She used to promote walking around the city.
Canadian lady. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So every year on her birthday, they organize Jane's Walk around the world. So we want to conduct Jane's Walk to take people and encourage people to get out of the houses, know their neighborhoods. So that is what we plan to do, and we want to do take school children, and because you may learn something in a book, but seeing it physically, it always registers better in your head. So we'll take school children. We'll do a lot of corporates visit Assam. So and with tour operators, hotels, and so on. That is how we plan to reach out to people. And to sum up, spiritual tourism has a lot of potential and offbeat destinations. So what we have talked about, all the places that we have talked about so far, fall in the most touristy circuits of Assam. But there are places like Bishwanath Charali, there are some places in Kachar Hills, in Karbi Anglong, very interesting places, and those things can be actually developed into other tourist destinations. Uh, Spiritual tourism, when we talk about temples or when we tell people that we're doing Kamakhya walks, the first thing they think about is okay, we are doing darshan and religious practices. But our one of the first things we tell them is our walk ends where the darshan begins. So we want to actually package spiritual tourism in a different way, trying to talk about architecture, history, mythology, folklores, uh, all those kind of things, package it in a different way to make it more attractive to young people. So let's say a family goes to Kamakhya or any other place. Maybe the parents want to enter the temple, but the children may do a walk and learn something else. And there's a lot of focus on development of tourism in Northeast. So as I had mentioned, that the government is building circuits in Dhupri around the Gurudwara and so on. So one of the main focuses for the government is Ambubasi Mela, where, as I said, 3 to 5 million visitors actually come for those 4 days. But what we can work on a PPP model where we can get like special passes, make it more accessible for travelers, because people, even residents of Guwahati, get scared thinking about visiting Kamakhya during that time. But it is a very special time of the year. So if you can get passes, make it more friendly for travelers, that it'll be that will lead to the growth of tourism. Similarly, there's in Borpeta, the Holi is very famous. So we can take certain festivals, certain things, and promote it with the government and with private players as well.
Thank you, Prasenjit. I just wanted to
Um,
ask you one thing that is, staying in my mind. How far is Swalkuchi from Guwahati?
so, ma'am, Swalkuchi is about 45 minutes, 45 minutes to an hour.
So
So
it's not
from
far. So can you just take a minute or two to tell people why I asked you about Swalkuchi? What is so famous about Swalkuchi?
So Swalkuchi is known as the Manchester of the East. It is silk weaving capital of Assam. So in Assam there are four types of silk that are produced, out of which Muga is the most famous. So Muga is known because the silk is golden. Natural color of the silk is golden, and it lasts for generations. So it can be passed on from mother and so on, and it lasts for a very long time. uh, you do not need to dye it or anything. It's natural and it's a very strong fiber. The other silk is that is produced is called eri. So eri is something like pashmina. So in the hot weather, it can keep you cool. In cool weather, it can keep you warm. So, and the other two is, one is called Indi, and I'm not. I think the other one is called Pat. The other two I'm not very sure of, but I'm sure my wife and my mom will be able to talk about it. Uh, but so right from the growing stage, so where they take the pupa, the caterpillars, which actually feed on mulberry leaves. So right from the growing stage to to harvesting of the thread, to processing it. Now they have the hand loom, and also they have machine looms. So this entire thing is done in Swalkuchi. This is one of the centers of silk in Assam, and maybe the center of Muga silk around the world. So Muga silk is being very popular. There's a designer who is actually taking Muga and other silk from Assam to the other parts of India. So people like Priyanka Chopra and all the film stars are wearing it in Lakme Fashion Week. So it's getting very popular, but it is very expensive. So one Muga mekla chadar, that is like a sari, it starts at around 50,000 rupees or so. It's very long. It's very famous, and lot of it's the go-to thing for Indian Assamese women. So
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I wanted, to highlight this because, and also thanks for, saying that it passes on from mother to daughter. I think my mother got her in 72. So I have a 50-year-old piece with me, and it's one of my most treasured saris, in fact. And so I definitely wanted to share with everyone that when you are in that part of the world, you may or may not buy if it is not in
that's
your
all.
budget and if you don't wear, but you can buy other things of Muga. You can just, but do go and see on how the whole experience of from how the pupa point and then how it turns into silk. It's an absolutely incredible journey. That's why India is incredible. So when you're going for spiritual tourism and taking the blessings of the Shakti Peeth over there, there's so much else that can be done along with it to understand about architecture, food, the local traditions, music. There is enough to see in terms of the local arts and crafts. So I think that's where the story of India is so enriching, so empowering, and at the same time so overwhelming in so many ways. Because wherever you go thinking, I'm going to see these two things. But what you actually come back with is so much more. And that's where we encourage everyone that don't just go to any place once, just keep going again and again and start discovering the layers of a place. Because look at us, I mean, we've done 140 episodes and we're still having a long queue of people saying, we want to showcase this and we want to showcase that. That's the beauty of India. So, time, I think it's just past 12 noon, and it's time for us to call it a day. But thank you so much, both Prasenjit and Ritvik. And thank you to the entire team that has brought this episode together. And also thanks to everyone who every Saturday makes it a point to join in. In fact, a couple of times when I forgot to forward sometimes to some of my friends, they said, what happened? They were very curious. They actually messaged me back. They said, what happened? Why you haven't sent us any link? Then I sent, because I was traveling, I had forgotten. So that is where I think it has become almost like an addiction for most people, that every Saturday morning they will have their cup of coffee, tea, whatever that they are having, but they'll also log into Dekho Apna Desh. So thank you, team, for bringing the episode, and thank you, viewers, for joining in. And we encourage all of you. Ritvik told me the weather is already very nice on that part of the world, but even if it's raining, go ahead and just wear a raincoat or take an umbrella. It's nice to be out in the rain and just enjoy your travels. So, once again, thank you and a namaste from the Ministry of Tourism, from all of us. And see you once again next Saturday, 11 a.m., from another part of our incredible country. Namaste.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.